Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Whitmore, founder and director of the Protocol School of Palm Beach. Have you ever been to a dinner party and you looked at all the silverware and all the glassware on the table and you had absolutely no idea where to start? And you looked around the table and you had to watch and see what other people were doing just so that you wouldn't make a mistake? Well, today we're going to be talking about how to properly set the table, as well as the two most famous styles of dining, American and Continental. And most people don't know the difference. So, in today's Ask the Etiquette Expert series, I'm going to be sharing with you these little tips and tools and tactics of dining so that whenever you go to a dinner party, you won't make the same mistakes that a lot of people do. So, I want to welcome all of you who are just joining us. And I do this series every Tuesday at 2. And I just happened to be in Boca Raton, Florida this past week. And after I gave my presentation to the Junior League of Boca Raton, one of the women came up to me at the end of the program and she asked me about silverware and where she should set her silverware when she's resting and when she's finished. So that gave me the idea of this show today because I thought, well, if she doesn't know, and a lot of these other people don't know, then it would be a great topic for the show. So, as I said, welcome. If you have a comment, if you have a question throughout today's program, please go ahead and just go ahead and type it in the chat, and I would be happy to answer your questions. So today I put together some quick and dirty slides for you so that you can see what I use to teach dining etiquette. Now, I have a whole program that lasts about 2 hours. But today, since we only have about 20 minutes, I'm going to share with you just a few slides to help you become more familiar with table settings. And you may even think you know how to properly set a table, but maybe one of these days you're invited to a formal dinner party and with multiple courses. And I don't want you to not know what to do. I don't want you to get nervous or feel intimidated. So that's why I have put together the following slides. So let's first start out with this series of slides. I always like to start out with the basics. BMW. Have you ever been to a dinner party and you noticed the person on your left eating from your bread plate? Or maybe you looked around and you saw the person on your right drinking from your water glass. Has that ever happened to you? Well, maybe you were the one eating from someone's bread plate or drinking from someone's water or wine glass by mistake. I have seen this so many times, and I always revert back to the BMW technique, which is B is for bread, and bread will always be on the left. M is for meal. Meal is always in the middle. And W is on the right. Water and wine are on the right. BMW. So that might help you the next time you go to a party and you're looking at all your silverware and you say, oh my goodness, which wine glass is mine? So always remember BMW. Another thing I like to teach is this technique. If you make eyeglasses like this and you take your hands away, you'll notice that the left hand looks like the letter B. The right hand looks like the letter D. So bread will always be on the left and drink will always be on your right. Clever, right? So let's go back to the slides for just a second. And so you'll notice that this is a very simple place setting. There are forks on the left, spoons and knives on the right. And another way to uh, memorize how to set a table is fork has 4 letters, left has 4 letters. Knife and spoon have 5 letters. Right has 5 letters. So knives and the spoons will go on the right. So pretty simple, isn't it? And I know a lot of you might be getting ready for Mother's Day, and maybe you're entertaining mom or your grandmom at home. And so you'll want to set a really pretty table. Well, you don't have to get out all your silverware, but it's kind of nice to break out the special china and the crystal for special occasions. So this is a formal place setting. You'll notice that, my goodness, there are a lot of forks and knives here. But we always start from the outside in, which you all know what that means. You always start with the utensil that is farthest from the plate. So, for example, the little fork on the far end of the left-hand side, that is for salad. But look at the spoon on the far right. That's for soup. So which do you have first, soup or salad? Well, you'll naturally know as soon as the server puts the food in front of you. And 99.9% of the time, it's soup. Soup is usually first, followed by salad. And then you might even have, or you may even have, according to this formal place setting, the next course after salad is the fish course. And you can tell it's the fish course by looking at the little, the knife on the right-hand side. It looks more like a sword. You'll notice that. And it's pointed. Well, that knife was designed for deboning the fish back in the day. And then after the fish course, then you would have your main course, your main meal. And then dessert would be served last. So that's just a formal place setting. This is a 6-course place setting. And I want you to pay attention to the little tiny fork on the far right-hand side. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Jacqueline, you just told me the forks were on the left. And that is true. But the rule of etiquette is you never put more than 3 forks on the left-hand side. So we are going to have shrimp cocktail with this particular meal. So the shrimp cocktail fork can either come out with the shrimp cocktail, which a lot of restaurants do. It's a little teeny tiny fork. Or if you like, you can set it on the table and just tilt it just a little bit, like you see in this diagram. It's resting on the spoon in a little diagonal. So that looks kind of pretty. So you've got your appetizer first, shrimp cocktail. It might be mussels. It could be escargot. Who knows? Then you have a soup course next, and then you would have fish third. Then you would have your entree or main meal fourth, followed by, guess what? Salad. And in this particular case, yes, we are eating salad last. And a lot of European countries, they choose to eat salad with the main meal or after the main meal. So I've seen it both ways, but to be most formal, it would be served after, because the salad is really good for digestion and cleansing the palate. Notice the fork and the spoon on the top of the plate. That is for dessert. And so during dessert, you would simply pull the fork down to the left and the spoon down to the right-hand side of the plate. And now you're ready to have dessert. So you could also eat dessert with one utensil or the other, or both. Using both would be considered continental style. Using one would be considered American style when you just use one utensil. So then you've got a bread and butter plate on the left. You've got individual salt shaker and pepper shaker. You've got a little menu card up there. And then you have all of the glasses, all of the beautiful crystal glasses. The largest one is a water glass. The one behind the water glass, the real tall, skinny one, that is a champagne flute. And then in front of the champagne flute, you have white wine and red wine. And usually the white wine glass is smaller than the red wine glass because red wine has to breathe. So maybe one of these days we'll do a class on wine etiquette because I know you would enjoy that. And I have a great friend who is a sommelier, and she can teach us all about how to pour wine and order it and drink it and all of that. And the teeny tiny glass in the front, that is a sherry glass. And we don't see that much anymore. Back in the Victorian times, people would drink sherry with just about every meal. So you can use it as an aperitif. You can use it, or you can consume sherry with your dessert. It doesn't matter. Sometimes sherry is even served with soups, certain soups like a lobster bisque or a she crab soup. The sky's the limit. Let's go on to the next slide. Now, I know many of you have seen the movie Downton Abbey or the series. They had an exhibit. The Downton Abbey had an exhibit in New York, and this picture is taken from that exhibit. And you'll notice full screen here, right here, you'll see all the silverware, the napkins, everything is so beautifully set. One thing that I want to point out is I want you to take note of the centerpieces. The centerpieces are low. They're not really high, because if they were too high, then you wouldn't be able to see your guests. And you never want to talk over the centerpieces. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is when you're setting your table and you're buying flowers, is you never want to buy flowers that are fragrant, because you don't want the fragrance to overpower the aroma of your meal. Same thing with scented candles. You don't want scented candles on the table at all. Just, you would put unscented candles on the table. And usually you only use candles in the evening, never during the day. But there are no hard and fast rules to that. I mean, in the historic etiquette books, they'll say absolutely candles will stay off the table until the evening. But I know a lot of people who like to light candles throughout the day. I want to welcome all of you who are just joining us. I'm Jacqueline Whitmore. This is Ask the Etiquette Expert. I come on every Tuesday at 2, and I encourage you to write in and ask questions. And maybe one of these days I will feature your question on a future show. You can write to me on your favorite social media platform. I'm in all of them. Or you can go to my website, etiquetteexpert.com, and you will see my email there, info@Etiquette Expert. And the other thing that I want to invite you to do is I want to give you a free gift. It is my free ebook titled Master Your Mingle Ability: How to Turn Contacts into Contracts. So if you go to my website, etiquetteexpert.com, and scroll to the very bottom of the page, you will see Master Your Mingle Ability. And all you have to do is click on that link and share your first name and your email address, and you'll get the download immediately. So I'd really love to give that to you as my free gift. I also have my own books that I have published, 2 of them actually, one being Poised for Success and business class, etiquette essentials for success at work, and also they can be purchased on Amazon.com. But if you want a free book, just go to my website and will you will get a copy. So let's go back to the slides. We only have a few more. Let's move on to how to properly hold a knife and fork. So you'll notice in this diagram, the man is holding the silver in the palm of his hand. And this is how I teach people how to hold their silverware. And then in the next slide, he flips his hands over and he keeps his index fingers pointed downward. And that's exactly how I like to teach. So I just happen to have a knife and fork right here. And if you balance the knife and fork on the palms of your hands, and then you flip it over, and you'll notice my fingers are pointed. I try not to go down on the fork here. I just hold it on the base, and also same here. You don't want to hold it here or way up here, just like this. And you can get more leverage when you're holding the fork and knife like this. And when you're cutting, you don't saw your meat, you just gently cut. You can go back and forth. And eating should be a silent activity. It shouldn't be loud and obnoxious. And anyway, let me go ahead and go back to how to hold the knife and fork. You see that diagram right there. And then if you're eating American style, what you would do is you would cut your meat and you would take your knife and you would put it down on the edge of the plate, never hanging off the plate. And then you would switch your fork from one hand to the other. I happen to be right-handed, so I eat with my right hand. And you see here, so I would just eat with the tines up, just like that. So I'll demonstrate again. You cut, put the knife down on the edge of the plate, and I call that the zigzag method. And a lot of people who were born and raised in the US or North America are most familiar with this style of eating. However, years ago, when I took my very first etiquette course, I was taught a more efficient way of dining. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you next. It is called the Continental style, and it's actually faster and more efficient, less noisy, and it looks sophisticated. And if you want to look like you've been somewhere, that you've traveled, I would recommend that you learn this particular style. So what you do is you just hold the knife and fork the same way you did American style. And instead of putting one utensil down on the plate, you hold on to both and you cut, and you bring the utensil up to your mouth with the tines upside down. So cut and eat, cut and eat. That's it. So let me show you a slide that would help demonstrate that. Oh, by the way, let's go back to American for just a second. This is the resting position on the left and the finished position on the right. This is important for you to know because when you're in a fancy restaurant, a nice restaurant, if the servers are trained properly, they will look for these silent signals to either remove your plate or leave it right where it is. So if you want the server to leave you alone, maybe you're talking in between bites, you would put your silverware side by side in the resting position. When you're all finished, you would move the silverware together, side by side, but closer together. And that is indicating that you are finished and the server can take your plate away. But I also say you never want the server to take your plate away before everyone is finished. So I'll say that again. Wait until everyone is finished at your table before allowing the server to take your plate away, because you don't want to be the only one sitting there and not having anything in front of you, because that can make other people feel awkward. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, now we're on to continental style. And for those of you who are just joining me, welcome. I'm Jacqueline Whitmore. Please go to my website and pick up your free ebook, Master Your Mingle Ability. If you go to etiquetteexpert.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, you can download your free copy today. So that's my gift to you. Also, if you have any questions throughout the program or any comments, you can write to me, or you can leave them in the chat. I can see as you write them, and maybe one of these days I will feature your question on a future show. So please remember to like and share this episode and all other episodes with your friends. Okay, so we're just about out of time. So let me move this along. You hold the knife and fork the exact same way. The continental style, as I said, you bring the tines to your mouth with the tines upside down. You bring the fork to your mouth with the tines upside down. This is the resting position on the left and the finished position on the right. And I want you to notice that the silverware on the right, the tines are down when you're all finished, because you've been eating upside down. So when you're finished, you put the silverware side by side, just like that. And I'll end with the barbarian style. This is when you stab your meat like a wild beast. The stabbing and the sawing and the holding the fork like a shovel, these are all don'ts. And once the silverware has been used, you always put it back on the plate in a resting or a finished position. You'll notice in the diagram to the far right, bottom right, that this person put their silverware in the rowboat style. They just, they're allowing the silverware to hang off the plate, and that's not correct. So you wouldn't want to do that at all. Now, for you left-handed diners out there, I always say cut with your dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I cut with the right. But if you're left-handed and you want to cut with the left, that's fine. You can do the same thing, eat the same way, cut and eat, cut and eat. Just when you are finished, all finished, you want to be mindful that the silverware should go back on the plate in the finished position. Not like this, but like this. So you always make sure the blade of the knife faces inward, never outward, because that is a sign of aggression in some cultures. So it's interesting, isn't it, to know all of this? Again, if you have any questions, please leave your questions in the comments, or you can always email me. So I hope you have enjoyed this little dining tutorial. It was fast, it was quick. Let me know if you use some of my tips, because I would love to hear from you. And hope to see you next time. I meet here every Tuesday at 2, and I would love to see you next time. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.